5, 4, 3, 2. Realtors, you're in the right spot.
We're going to do this together.
Welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast.
These mentors showed me a map of success.
This is the place for real estate pros like you to get better at running your business, balancing your life, and having happy clients.
Do you know how powerful you are?
And now your host, Eric Thompson.
What's up, everyone? It's your good friend, Eric Thompson. This is the Leading Edge Podcast, episode number 78. Thank you, as always, so much for tuning in. It means the world to me. It's super fun. I hope life is good for you. Life is pretty darn good for me. I got my confidence boot camp rolling along right now. I got all kinds of business planning sessions that I'm hosting. I am being able right now to connect with lots and lots of my real estate professional friends to help them out in different ways, and that is super fulfilling, I must say. This episode, you guys, it's all about Zillow. It's all about Zillow's recent decision to bail, to quit on their iBuying business. We're going to start, my friends, we're going to start this episode with a quote from their CEO. Their CEO and founder's name is Rich Barton. And this is a quote that comes out of their quarterly earnings call. As you guys know, they're a publicly traded company, which means they do quarterly earnings reportings and phone calls with investors, etc. So this is a quote from that call most recently. He says, this is Rich Barton. He says, "We've determined the unpredictability in forecasting home prices far exceeds what we anticipated, and continuing to scale Zillow offers would result in too much earnings and balance sheet volatility." That's a very fancy way of saying that what they found was this is a pretty complicated thing, right? No surprise. I think that's something we all know and imagine trying to do it at the scale that they were trying to do it at. And it did not work out. And we are not going to celebrate their demise, or we're not going to dance on their grave or anything like that. This episode is not at all about Zillow bashing. By no means. No, we're not doing that, because people lost their jobs here. So we're not happy about this. It's just interesting. All right. So we're going to look at what's interesting about this decision and what it means. All right. I'm going to share some thoughts about what it means for you, my friends, my real estate professional friends. Let's first look at the numbers. There's some really, really interesting numbers around all of this, around their iBuying activity and their iBuying decision to bail out on that part of their business, starting with how much money they lost. My friends, they lost well over $300 million just in the last quarter on this business. What? Yeah, that's a lot of money that they lost. My goodness, they had so many resources going into this. So many people were involved in this. I just can't imagine the payroll and the contractors that they're working with, and on and on and on. So speaking of that, what they said, and this is the sad part about all this, that what they said is that 25% of their workforce is going to be laid off. So think about all they do and all the people that they employ. So 25% of them are going to lose their jobs. So they had, that just goes to show how many people they had focused on this part of their business. 25% of their workforce is going to get laid off. They have around 10,000 homes that they own currently, plus another around 8,000 that are under contract in escrow. And, that's their most recent report. So maybe those numbers have changed a little bit, but there are a lot of homes, right? There are a lot of homes that they still own that they need to sell. There was very recent news that came out that said they sold a block of those. I think it was a couple thousand to a big investor who they own single family homes that they rent out. And so they offloaded a bulk of those. But guys, bottom line, there's going to be some inventory coming on the market where they have been active. That's, of course, good news. I wonder if it's going to create some opportunity for these individual sales. I wonder if they're going to have a mindset of let's get rid of these. Let's, I don't know if I would say fire sale, but let's get these off the books, so to speak. So there could be some buying opportunities with these properties. But those are some of the numbers. That's what happened. We know that they bailed out on the business. You know what? I watched this activity, and I'm sure you did too. And I'm not surprised by their decision to bail out. And I'm guessing you're not surprised either if you had also watched. I'm sure that you did. Like I'm sure I'm not alone in the fact that we would look at these individual transactions, these individual sales. We'd say, there's one. Zillow bought that home. We'd look up what they paid for it. And then we'd look at what they listed it for. And so many times we'd look at their ambition and their list price. And then we'd look at how they'd have to drop the price and drop the price and drop the price to a point where it would finally sell. And so many of these sales were less than what they paid. In a lot of cases, it was much less than what they paid. In so many cases, what they paid was way above what they should have paid. Like what they paid was so much higher than most recent sales in that same neighborhood for that similar kind of home, or even that same floor plan. And we would look at these transactions and we would say, what are they thinking? What are they doing? How long can this last? Right? That's the thought that would go through my mind. And when I would talk to my friends and colleagues about this, that's the same thing that we would say, like, this is craziness. How long can this go on? Well, it turns out for not much longer could that go on, right? I mean, these are smart people. I mean, let's give them that. These are not dumb people. And, I don't know how that went down. Their leadership or their board of directors just finally called a timeout. Like, whoa, what are we doing here? Like, this is craziness. Let's stop this. Let's focus on the parts of our business that do make money. Now, again, we totally feel for all these people that lost their job, right? This is not Zillow bashing. We're not going to, celebrate the demise of this. It's just interesting, right? It's super interesting, and we definitely have our heart going out to these people that lost their job, right? It was an interesting decision, I think, in the first place to go into this business, just because of the capital that is required to do this at any kind of a scale, and the complexity that goes into it. It is amazing, right? It's just absolutely amazing. Okay, now what does this mean? Well, I think there are two things that come up for me in terms of what this means. The first thing we need to talk about is the Zestimate, of course, right? Let's talk about the Zestimate. Now, I'm going to want to share another quote from Rich Barton, their founder. Check this out. So he also said this on this most recent quarterly earnings call. He said this: our observed error rate has been far more volatile than we thought possible. Fundamentally, we have been unable to predict future pricing of homes to a level of accuracy that makes this a safe business to be in. By the way, if you're getting really curious about these quotes and if you want to see them and have them, I got them from Inman. You guys, I'm sure, know about Inman News, INMAN. And it's a great news platform for us in the real estate business. That's where I got these quotes. So isn't that fascinating? He's talking about their observed error rate being more volatile than they thought possible. Fancy way of saying that the Zestimate was not helpful to them in their process of acquiring these homes and looking at what they're going to pay for them. The Zestimate didn't work. Now, what I would tell you about this is that obviously this is a great tool for sellers that are overly hung up on their Zestimate. And when we're seeing that the price that they believe that their home is worth based on the Zestimate is not what the market would bear, right? Would not be the market price. If we think that the Zestimate is overinflating the value of a property, and it's really messing up the expectations of a seller, like the seller's not, just not able to see the reality of the market because they're so hung up on the Zestimate. What I just shared right here clearly would be helpful, right? It would be clearly helpful to show this quote that I shared with you, to share that with the seller. That would be helpful. Now, what I think, that is the right time to share this information with a seller. It's when you're way down the path with them and they are absolutely hung up in an unhealthy way, ineffective way. They have false expectations of the value of their property based on the Zestimate. That's the time to talk about this kind of thing. And the fact that Zillow, actually, they had to shut down a whole division of their business that was losing hundreds of millions of dollars because the Zestimate was not accurate. That's the time. What's not the time, guys, what's not the time is when a person first brings up the Zestimate. All right. So what I encourage you, if you have a client, if you have a seller that even, brand new client, new relationship, and they happen to bring up Zillow and the Zestimate early in the conversation, that's not the time or place to bash the Zestimate. It's not, all right? It's just not going to work out, right? You potentially will make that person feel silly, feel dumb, feel like a fool. You may potentially come across as being kind of arrogant. So don't do that. What I recommend always is the very best way to start with a client when they first bring up the Zestimate is to say, you know what? It can be a good place to start. What I can do is something that's more accurate, because I can really look at what is happening right now, right in your market at a very detailed level, knowing all the nuances of our current market, and do some things that frankly, an algorithm isn't able to do. But, Zestimate's a good place to start. It can at times kind of get us in the ballpark. But would it be helpful if I gave you an accurate valuation, accurate estimate of what your home is worth in today's market? That's the way to say it, right? Not by bashing the Zestimate. So yeah, use this information, use this decision when someone is, again, having false, wrong expectations, right? To help them get over that, to help them realize what the market is, what the market's really doing, and help them realize that the Zestimate may not be helpful. That's when you do it, not up front. All right. So that's thing number one. Of course, this whole decision makes us think about the Zestimate. Thing number two, it reminds us of the value of us, the full-time, full-on, committed real estate professional. It reminds us of that. And we, hopefully you don't need to be reminded too much. But maybe you do, and that's cool if you need to be reminded from time to time. But it's so fascinating to look at how this all went down and what was driving their decision, and the value of a person, the value of a human being with a relationship with that client is so important in this whole process, in this whole transaction. The purchase and the sale of a home is such a big deal. And it requires a skilled human being who is really good at being human and really good at having a connection and a relationship and a high level of trust with the client. I'm going to share another quote. Here we go. This is right from Inman News. It says, later in the call, meaning the quarterly earnings call, later in the call, Rich Barton, also hinted that Zillow offers may not have been doing the brand any favors. He said it put Zillow in a position of having to negotiate with consumers for their most emotionally and financially valuable asset, only to have, and now this is in quotes, only to have 90% of them go do something else, and some of them pretty miffed about the brand. And what he means by that is 90% of them go do something else is when they had all kinds of people inquiring on the site to find out, well, what's my home worth? Yeah, well, make me an offer. Like, what would you offer me? I'm so curious. And so out of 100 people that would make that inquiry, 90 of them would not do anything, or certainly they would end up not working with Zillow. But so think about all the time and effort, energy, and all the not goodwill, like not in every case necessarily bad will, but so many of them walked away not feeling so awesome about Zillow. This is the last part of the quote from Rich Barton. This is now in quotes. It's not what we're used to. It's not what we're trying to be. See, this is not what they're used to. What they're used to is being like this separate entity. What they're used to really is selling advertising to realtors. That's what they're used to doing, right? They're used to funneling leads to realtors, right? They're not used to this direct interaction and interface with the client, with the consumer, with the human being. And so guess what, guys? Guess what? They need you. The client needs you. They need you so much, so badly. So as I always say, any talk about the fact that, well, the realtor may go the way of the travel agent, or the realtor may end up getting disintermediated. Hopefully I said that right. You know what I say to that? Give me a break. Give me a break. Like, give me a break. This is their most financially and emotionally valuable asset. You know what they need? They need you. They need a human being who is really good at what they do, who has a high level of trust, who's great at building relationships, who really, really knows their stuff, who is like boots on the ground, not just off in some call center somewhere behind a computer screen. They need you. They need you. They've always needed you, and they will need you into the future. It's so fascinating to look at the number of people who work with realtors, and their transaction has only trended up over time. Only in the last 15 years, or not, I mean, more than 15 years, but you look at the last 15 years, there are only more people. There are only more and more people, only a higher and higher percentage of people using you, the true professional, versus the consumer choosing to go on their own and do it by themselves. Even in an age and an era where you would think theoretically it would be easy for them to go on their own and do it by themselves, because my gosh, you can get all the forms online and you can watch some YouTube videos and maybe even listen to some podcasts about how to sell your home on yourself. But the consumer doesn't want to, because this is their most financially and emotionally valuable asset. So they want to work with a person. Like, they know that, like, man, this is a big deal. I'm going to need some help. Plus, it's been a long time since I've done this before. You know, on average, it's every 10 years that a client does this. So 10 years ago, this whole process, the whole transaction, the whole market was way different. So they need you. They cannot become an expert at buying and selling a home. They can't do that because they only do it every 10 years. That's why they need you. We've all become experts at buying plane tickets online because we do it a lot. Like, we have high frequency. We've all become experts at buying books online and really buying lots of things online because we do it a lot. We get a lot of reps, right? And so we have a lot of practice where the buying and selling of a home happens on average only 10 years. So how on earth could a consumer become an expert at this? They need you. You are the expert. You are the one who brings your expertise because you live and breathe this every day. So don't buy into any nonsense that the realtor is going to go away. Now, things will change. Things always change. Things always evolve. Like, we got to keep up. We have to adapt. We can't rest on our laurels. We have to always be looking ahead and look at the trends and look at what's happening with technology. And we have to really understand the players and all those things, right? I'm not saying put our head in the sand. I'm saying keep our head up and keep looking in the future. But just know, like, have confidence, have it put like a bounce in your step that, my goodness, the client needs you for lots of good reasons. They really, really need you. This is a risky, complex, this is an infrequent, and this is a super emotional process and decision. That's why they need you. You've now been reminded of that. Okay, my friends, that is episode number 78. It's all about Zillow and their decision to bail on iBuying. You need to, as always, go check out my group, my community, my network, my amazing, wonderful group of people called Alpha State. You got to go check out Alpha State. AlphaStateClass.com is where you can check out all the things all about that. Oh my gosh, we're having so much fun in there. We're building up our confidence. We're getting ready for the new year. Away we go. And you guys, I so appreciate you engaging with this podcast. I look forward to seeing you on the next one. In the meantime, enjoy life on the leading edge. Bye.